Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below. Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga, where previously Red's Pokemon journey through the Kanto region continues onward. He has encountered various different situations, from meeting with the Pokemon thief girl Green and helping her keep the Mewtwo data away from Team Rocket, who are looking to complete their genetic experiment Mewtwo, as well as joining up with Bill, dealing with an Eevee who had been modified by Team Rocket to be able to cycle through the various different evolutions, something we'd see later down the line in the Pokemon games. Well, type switching, I should say. However, this was killing the Eevee, and an encounter with Erica of the Celadon City Gym, I think, helped them free the Eevee from this experimentation. And though Team Rocket still is after the Eevee, as seen by none other than the gym leader Sabrina keeping tabs on them, Red is still determined to help this Eevee out regardless, despite Bill's warning. We also had a bit of a moment where Blue and Red switched Pokemon for a while, which helped Blue's Machoke evolve into a Machamp, and so their Pokemon have learned in different ways and grown. But the last chapter we had encountered, Red had gone into the Safari Zone, and because he broke the rules by bringing in one of his own Pokemon, well, Pokeballs, in order to catch a Pokemon, he ended up catching a Nidoqueen, which drew the ire of a Nidoking who was trying to court said queen. And so Red has been hunted through the Safari Zone by the Nidoking, with his only ally being the Pidgeybot guide he was supposed to have, who has been damaged, as well as Red being injured himself. But now Red has found himself being supposedly devoured by Victory Bell. What'll happen next? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, we pick up in chapter 22, A Hollow Victory Bell, which, gotta love them puns, as, while it seemed like last chapter Red was fully devoured, he is struggling for his life in the maw of the Victory Bell, just barely about to enter into its mouth. As Red says, this is too close for comfort, he sees a leaf fall into the mouth of the Victory Bell, dissolving in its stomach acid. The Victory Bell then wraps Red up in its vines as Red struggles and shouts, Hey, let go of me, you stupid Victory Bell. I can't get out. Where are you taking me? As he's carted off by the Victory Bell into a pot of Weeping Bell? I think that's what they are, Weeping Bell. Yep, Weeping Bell. Gotta make sure. Well, Weeping Bell and a few bells sprout. Red freaks out at the sight as he continues to struggle, saying, I didn't know they traveled in packs. He's then put with various other, I thought those were Pokemon, but no, they're just other animals. And that's less weird back in the old days, but nowadays it's like, if they're not a Pokemon, that's weird. The Bellsprout calls out, and then so did the Weeping Bell. I guess that means it's dinner time. The Pidgeybot manages to catch up to Red, perching on a nearby branch, saying, Are you okay, Red? Red says, Do I look okay, Pidgeybot? What's going on here? Pidgeybot explains, this is their evolution ritual. They're evolving from Bellsprout into Weeping Bell into Victory Bell. That's why you weren't eaten on the spot. Red says, You mean they need food, like me, for instance, to help them evolve? Which, he struggles, saying, Get me out of here. Stupid vine. Pidgeybot tells him, I told you, Bruce Force is useless here. Think. Now then, what do you have in your arsenal that, other than that Safari Ball? Red says, a few things. Let's see them. Pidgeybot says, let's see them. Oh, he has quite a few items that he would have gained along the way. Poke Flute and those locating rods. Yeah, those are all a Rotel, which probably would have came in handy. And the doll thingy. Oh, actual stuff you can get in the game. Pidgeybot says, absolutely perfect. We'll start with these two. Nighttime comes and all of the various creatures are asleep. Red whispers over to the Pidgeybot saying, but, Pidgeybot says, shh, it's starting. The Victory Bell then takes a small rat, lifts it up, stabs it with another vine and starts, sucking its juices. It's like Perfect Cell. Or I should say Imperfect Cell. Pidgeybot says, so the young Pokemon evolve in their sleep while the elders feed them fertilizer. Red says, save it for the Pokedex. Red then says, I think I'm up next, as he sees the bird next to him be stabbed and drained next. Red takes a hard gulp in fear as Pidgeybot says, okay, don't mess this up. Red says, that's my line. He then thinks, please, Pidgeybot, please. As Pidgeybot flies off with the Pokeflute. He then, hides amongst the trees? Or either that or he's high up. I don't know how he's flying, considering he's both made of metal and with a busted ring, but I'll just assume he has some kind of hover function. Pidgeybot says, the whole carillon of bells should hear it from here, as he then blows into the Pokeflute with what lips? Whatever. Advanced technology, which startles the Weepin' Bell and Bellsprout. This causes the Victory Bell to halt inches away from stabbing Red in the neck with its vine. Pidgeybot then says, now, throw it. And Red thinks, okay. He then shuffles around and manages to fling the Pokédoll, saying, Pokemon Doll attack, which... I don't know. Pidgeybot says, this Pokemon Flute can awaken any sleeping Pokemon. Waking the Weepin' Bell will ruin tonight's ritual. As the Pokemon doll flies into the midst, distracting them, you should be able to slip free. And so as said Pokédoll, flies through the air, it catches the attention of the Victory Bell. This causes them to be distracted, releasing Red from their grasp as he says, yes, the vines are unwinding. Pidgeybot says, hurry, Red. And Red struggles out of the vine saying, don't I look like I'm hurrying? Pidgeybot says, of course, there is a risk that the Pokemon Flute might have awakened other Pokemon as well. Red pauses saying, kinda late to think of that, isn't it? But suddenly there's a loud boom in the jungle as Red says, uh-oh. The one-eyed Nidoking comes stomping through the forest, confronting Red and Pidgeybot. Red shirks back saying, the one-eyed Nidoking. See, I called it that even before he did. I don't know if it's because I maybe glimpsed it on the page or just the easiest thing to think of. He says, my old pal. And the Nidoking reels back and strikes at Red, but it ends up hitting a Victory Bell that Red manages to grab onto, or maybe he was still kind of tangled up in the Victory Bell's vines. Pidgeybot shouts, what are you doing? You can escape now. But Red says, don't you get it? With a cheeky grin. Oh, what the heck? As the Nidoking tries to swipe at Red again, he continues to pull on the vine of the Victory Bell, bringing the Weepin' Bell into the line of fire. As he says, if Nidoking hits them while they're trying to get me, they'll think it's coming to steal their prey. Yep. He's creating a conflict. So as the Nidoking strikes down more of the Victory Bell, Pidgeybot says, brilliant. So the Victory Bell will pursue Nidoking instead of you. But Nidoking's power level is higher. Red says, that's part of the plan. He then says, go. Safari Ball. And chucks a Safari Ball. Pidgeybot says, no, you can't capture a Nidoking with just... But Red captures a Victory Bell. With Pidgeybot going, what? Red says with a wink, this is the one I wanted to capture. So I had Nidoking weaken it for me. And now that I've caught it, I can fight with it. I can finally battle Nidoking. As he brandishes the Pokeball, he whirls it, saying, ready or not. But Pidgeybot says, but Victory Bell doesn't have enough power. Red tells him, hey, who's the one who keeps telling me not to be so hung up on raw power? Pidgeybot is speechless at this. As Red says, it's coming. As the Nidoking charges. Red says, good, Victory Bell, attack. And sends out Victory Bell, who uses a Vine Whip. And right as Nidoking is about to try to claw at it, Vine Whip manages to wrap around it. Or is it bind? I can't really tell. They don't really call out the attack names. As Red says, it's not all that strong, but it's long enough to tangle up those big claws. Quick, what are its attacks? Pidgeybot, I guess acting as a Pokedex, or basically the system that allows you to know what attacks, a Pokemon can use. He said he gets a reading with his scouter, I guess, saying, Victory Bell, try Poison Powder. Red says, okay, Victory Bell, Poison Powder. And Victory Bell just does just that. As Nidoking is sprayed with the poison powder, Red then says, go, Pokeball, sending out a Pokeball and managing to capture Nidoking, saying, got it. He brandishes the ball, saying, one captive Nidoking, thanks to you. And Pidgeybot gives a wink. Oh. However, after all of that, now Red is surrounded by Victory Bell, Bellsprout, and several Nidoking who come stomping up to him and Pidgeybot. And as Red and Pidgeybot turn to the angry crowd behind them, Red says, oh boy. The next morning, the staff of the Safari Zone continue to search for Red, saying, hey, hello, along with Red's Pokemon. The leader says a cap as he comes upon Red's hat. As he turns to Pikachu, saying, is this the boys? Pikachu gives a nod and a Pika. The leader says, I see. He tells his men, careful, this is Victory Bell country. We can't stop here. It's Victory Bell country. Saying, search stealthily, or they'll be searching for us. Only for a Victory Bell to come bursting out of the brush, scaring Pikachu and the leader of the team. And then out comes several Nidoking and more Victory Bell as well, freaking out the team as the leader says, we're surrounded. Only for Red to pop up on the head of one of the Nidoking, saying, okay, so what do I catch in, huh? And the researchers see him going, huh? As he's brandishing more Safari balls, as Red smiles and says, hey everybody. The freaked out Pikachu and researchers are all agape, with the leader saying, you caught all these? As we also see a Parasect wander all by, as Red says, you should have seen the ones that got away. I mean, after a certain point, yeah, most of them would be his. Jeez. Whereas Ash ended up catching a whole flock of Tauros, Red was doing the real work out here. Just Pokeball, go, go, go. Survival of the fittest. Then again, I mean, he caught a pretty strong Nidoking, and I guess the leader of the Victory Bell. So once that happened, he just send them out and just have them start taking down others. And when any one gets weakened, Red just throws a Pokeball. I think I see a few Execute in there too. We then cut over to Viridian City, where two people are outside the Viridian City gym. One questions, this is the gym. Still closed, huh? Another says, they say Giovanni's been missing for a long time. The other guy questions, who's Giovanni? The guy points inside saying, that gym leader there, pointing to the bust of Giovanni. In chapter 23, make way for Magma. Oh, we cut to Diglett's cave, the Peter City exit, which, I guess he had to go that way back again, right? As we see Red wandering out of the cave, saying, man, it's so bright. That was a long tunnel. He then waves into the inside of the cave, saying, come on, mister, what's taking you so long? The man says, don't push me so hard. And Giovanni says, you're just a bundle of energy, aren't you, Red? God, how did wait, yeah, didn't you encounter Giovanni? Where did you originally first encounter Giovanni? Wasn't it at Silphco originally, when it was being held hostage by Team Rocket? It's hard to say. My memories are hazy on that one. But Giovanni says, I'm sorry to take you so far off track from your quest like this. Red says, hey, no problem. I told you I wanted to come along. I mean, searching for Pokemon fossils, so it doesn't get much better than that. Giovanni holds up some rocks saying, Red, it has to be Giovanni, because he has a black cuff and long sleeves, and Red has short sleeves. But Red says, I hope some of the rocks we dug up yesterday have something great hidden in them. Giovanni says, I hope so too. But they could all just be plain rocks. Red gets bummed, saying, no way. But Giovanni tells him, well, we'll find out at the Peter City Museum. As Red and Giovanni walk down the path, Red says, and glances at Giovanni. Giovanni notices this and says, "What is it?" Red says, "I can't shake the feeling that I've seen you somewhere before. I can't remember where, but are you sure you don't remember me?" Giovanni says, "That again, huh? Why would I remember something that you can't remember?" Red brushes it off, saying, "Oh well, maybe it's just that I can't think of a fellow Pokemon fan as a stranger." Giovanni laughs. "A Pokemon fan I am, but just a lowly researcher. I can only dream of being as great a trainer as you, Red." Red says, "Yep, that's right. Even gym leaders tremble in fear of me." This catches Giovanni's attention, but he brushes it off, saying, "Even gym leaders, eh? My. Red gets huffy, saying, What, you don't believe me? I can't tell you how many gym leaders I've clobbered, not to mention Team Rocket's finest, or worstest." Giovanni laughs. No doubt. But Red says, "Doesn't sound like you mean it." But as they swelter in the heat of the day, Giovanni wipes his forehead, saying, "Warm day, don't you think?" Red says, "Yeah, considering we haven't walked much yet, I'm pretty hot and sweaty." He then looks to his Pikachu, saying, "You think so too, Pikachu?" Pikachu's panting in the heat. Meanwhile, Giovanni thinks to himself, this heat is caused by flames. A wild Magmar? No, two. You can tell that just by feeling the heat? Jeez. It's interesting to see a studious Giovanni. Honestly, it's interesting to see a Giovanni who's just hanging out in the wild, at least during the red and blue days. But something catches Red's attention as he exclaims, "What?" As he sees a building on fire. He shouts, "The Museum of Science is burning! Fire Nation attack!" Was the fire started by Pokemon? And two Magmar are seen in a blaze as he shouts, "Magmar, I was right. Look out, mister!" As he pushes Giovanni away from the heat. Red brandishes his Pokeball, saying, "Now, look what a great trainer can do." Giovanni, behind Red, smiles, saying, thinking, at last I can see for myself how good he is. Wonder what he'll lead with. And Red brings out Snorlax, who blocks the flames, causing them to divert away from Giovanni and Red. As Red says, Snorlax recovers its health while it's asleep, so this should buy us some time. Giovanni, worried, says, "A Snorlax wall? Clever, but a little ruthless, wouldn't you say?" Red goes for more of his Pokeballs, saying, "Keep it down a sec, will ya? I'm trying to think of a way to put out the flames." Giovanni thinks, just as I thought, he's still a child. Raw courage and no foresight. Red then says, "Shoot, my Poliwrath's health's really low. What do I do now?" Giovanni thinks to himself, obviously he's no threat. But Red says, "I've got it. Snorlax returned." And he brings back Snorlax in his Pokeball. He then says, "Sandshrew, I choose you." Which, when did he catch a Sandshrew? Oh, in the cave. That makes sense. Giovanni questions, "But isn't that the low-level one you just caught?" Red says, "Yep, come on, get over here." Giovanni says, "Here?" As he's pushed off to the side. Red says, "A ground type Pokemon can use its powers best in sandy soil, right? So, sand attack. And sand is great for suffocating flames, right? Plus, it can go through flames and hit things, as the sand that the Sandshrew digs up is put over the flames and the Magmar." Red says, Go, Sandshrew, go." Giovanni thinks, what he lacks in knowledge he makes up for in ingenuity. Perhaps that inventiveness is what won him such unlikely victories. However, and we see the Magmar getting pissed, having sand tossed at him, which, understandable. Nobody likes getting pocket sand thrown in their face, or getting sand all up in the crevices at the beach. Giovanni says, "The sand is hitting its targets, but it only seems to annoy them. What are you going to do now?" Red thinks for a moment, saying, I'm thinking. I don't need a backseat driver." "I think you kind of do, boy." He then says, "Let me see. I could, or maybe, or..." He then says, "Sandshrew, run." Giovanni questions this, thinking, is he giving up? But Sandshrew dashes around the two Magmar. As Red says, if the attack doesn't work, then maybe. Giovanni thinks, "Oh ho ho," with a smile. As, what the heck? Sandshrew is creating a sandy whirlpool that drags the Magmar in. As Red says, "I can knock them off their feet." The Magmar are then buried in the sand, as Sandshrew uses Dig to get out of the way. with the Magmar completely enveloped in sand. And I mean, I would assume because of their body temperature, the only reason they would be frozen in place is because the sand turned to glass from the intense heat of their body. But they don't really say that, I don't think. As Red pats the sand shrew for its good job and its little tail is wagging. That's so cute. Giovanni thinks he's quick and he knows how to use a Pokemon's ability to the best advantage. I better take care of him now, as he brandishes a Pokeball. Red then says, Sandshrew, return, much to Giovanni's surprise. Giovanni comes up saying, but what about the final blow? Red says, nah, can't do it. Look at those guys, they can't move. As we see the the Magmar encased in sand? Glass? I really don't know. Red says, I can't attack a defenseless opponent. Giovanni is stupefied by this and looks back to the frozen Magmar thinking they won't finish them off. He then laughs to himself as he puts his Pokeball back in his pocket. Red says, well, I guess we can't study any fossils now. As they look over the burnt lab, Giovanni says, true, but then these are probably just useless pebbles anyway. A disappointed Red says, aw, and a still smiling Giovanni then says, since I probably won't see you again, Red, why don't you take one as a parting gift, as he hands over what kind of looks like a gold nugget almost, but it's probably an actual fossil. But didn't he get a fossil? Don't you get a fossil from a researcher in the game? Or am I thinking of a different cave you would have got that from? As Red looks at the rock, he says, well, okay, it's pretty at least. Looks like there's a bug trapped inside too. Oh, the amber. Okay, it's probably amber. Gotcha. Red and Giovanni shake hands as Giovanni tells him, good luck on your journey. And Red says, it was great tagging along with you, mister. He runs off, waving by at Giovanni, saying bye and thanks. Giovanni laughs, saying, take care, Red. But as Red takes off, the frozen Magmar start to move. Giovanni saying to himself, he thought it was over because he knocked them down. He's too soft. Magmar are savage and intelligent. They'll track down the one who beat them. And as the Magmar break free, obviously angry, they move in on Giovanni and go for the strike, only for them to be frozen in place by Giovanni's cloister. And as he says, a fool like him will destroy himself. All we have to do is wait. Cloister, finish it. And he has, I guess, cloister shatter the Magmar. Gee, brutal. As Giovanni walks off, laughing to himself, he says, when I heard that he defeated Koga and Lieutenant Surge, I wanted to see what he was all about, but imagine thinking that little boy. And as he opens up his jacket, probably because of the heat, we see on his vest the symbol for Team Rocket, as he laughs, saying, was a threat to Team Rocket. We then cut to the sea route number 19 in chapter 24. What a drag a night, as we see Red using the item finders? Yeah, there we go, item finder. The divination rods, swimming down with Poliwrath and Krabby, thinking it ought to be around here somewhere. The item finder's pinging like crazy, it's gotta be close, and I'm gonna make it mine. We then pick up at the Pokemon Center, where Professor Oak tells Red, there are 5 attacks your Pokemon can learn from the hidden machine. You've found 3 so far, Cut, which you gave to Ivysaur, Flash, which you gave to Pikachu, and Strength, which you gave to Snorlax. Yep. I'm kind of glad that after a certain point you don't have to force at least one Pokemon to learn those moves. It's just like, no, let me just be able to give my Pokemon whatever move I want. Don't stifle me, man. Red says, so there's still Surf and Fly out there, right? Oak says, you'll need them both on the road ahead. Cut back to Red, still underwater, saying, no fooling. If I'm gonna get to the Seafoam Islands, I need that machine to teach one of my Pokemon Surf, which is actually a pretty good technique, especially since that stupid Blue already found it. And we see Blue with his gold duck using Surf to make his way. The days before ride Pokemon, but deep under the water, which is wild because you don't actually use Pokemon to go underwater and all that until, what was it, the 3rd generation? Or was it did they start doing that in the, no, it had to be the 3rd generation, I think. Red then finds a Pokeball under the sea thinking, yeah, the HM03. Suddenly, a school of Magikarp go swimming past, as well as Tentacool. Red thinks, What's? Then spots something moving through the waves, none other than Dragonite. A massive one too, jeez. That just whips Red, Poliwrath, and Krabby out of the water and onto a nearby rock. And Red hits his bum butt good. And it knocks out his Pokemon too. Red sulks, saying, shoot, and right where I found it too. What's Dragonite with the Dragonite hanging around, I can't get near the sea bottom. But what choice do I have? I gotta go to that island. He spots two islands that, well, an island that, honestly, I'm gonna be real, looks like a pair of boobs. Red thinks and says, all I have to do is get Dragonite out of the water. Yeah, all. We then cut back to Dragonite under the waves as Red's Pikachu moves in with a rope tied around it. Flashback to Red telling Pikachu, I know you're not the greatest at water combat, but all you have to do is pester him for a while. And Pikachu does just that as he zaps Dragonite, and Dragonite turns to him pissed. Pikachu gulps hard, and suddenly back on the little rock, there's a tugging on it was Ivysaur's vine that Pikachu was in the water with. There's a tugging at Ivysaur's vine, Red says, okay, Ivysaur, pull. And as Ivysaur pulls Pikachu back up, Dragonite is not far behind, but Red brings out Snorlax and says now, as Snorlax uses Tackle while also grabbing Pikachu at the same time. Man, Snorlax is a good heavy hitter. I will say I did not keep him in my party though. I know that might be sacrilege to some people, but I just was not keeping him in my party. I'm sorry. As Snorlax and Dragonite continue to clash, Red says bingo. Meanwhile, as he goes sneaking back into the water, but he notices that the rock that Snorlax and Dragonite are fighting on starts to crack. Red says, oh no, they're too heavy. They're gonna make those boulders. And as Snorlax is downed from Dragonite, the rock they are on top of cracks from the weight, causing everyone to plunge into the water. Red thinks, yeah, I gotta get to the hidden machine quick. But Dragonite spots him, and his antenna start to glow? The heck? As Red tries to near the HM, the hidden machine, yeah. He thinks, okay, just a little more, but he narrowly avoids being struck by Dragonite's... I'm not sure. What attack is this? I'm trying to figure out what attack he's using. Like Thunder Wave or something? I really don't know. Well, I shouldn't dwell on that so much. Regardless, Red manages to avoid it, but it hits the hidden machine, which destroys it in the process. But as Red calls out the hidden machine, Dragonite's not done and continues to try to attack Red, who keeps narrowly avoiding. Oh, jeez. Red thinks, can't breathe, as he isn't able to notice when a large rock comes barreling down right on top of him. It gets his legs as he thinks, because he's underwater, oh no, my leg, lousy luck, can't move, Poliwrath. But he loses consciousness in the process. As Red starts to black out, he notices a Gyarados move in to take on the Dragonite, as he thinks, I can't believe it, Gyarados. But just as he goes unconscious, a mermaid that kind of looks like Misty comes up next to Gyarados, and as Gyarados tangles with Dragonite, also, because there's a Gyarados on screen, one of my faves. Bada bang. Misty the mermaid goes for Red, grabs him and brings him up to the surface. Dragonite and Gyarados continue to tussle, as the barely conscious Red thinks, a mermaid? And as Red is brought to the surface, he takes a deep breath as he hacks up a lot of water. He says, huh? I'm on the surface. What happened? But then he notices he's on top of Starmie, as Dragonite and Gyarados breach the surface of the water, still fighting. Red says a Gyarados, a Starmie, and a mermaid. And as Gyarados turns to Red and gives a nod, Red says, wait, is that the same star? As he thinks back to his battle with Misty to take on the Gyarados. Dragonite uses Hyper Beam against Gyarados, while Red says, Gyarados, look out, Hyper Beam. And Gyarados uses Hyper Beam. It's a Hyper Beam clash, and they hit a bit of a stalemate, only for Dragonite to fall over from exhaustion. Red leans back saying, all right. Something comes out of the water. It's none other than Misty. Standing on top of her Gyarados, she says, got it. Now that not that there's any point anymore, The thing's useless now as she holds up the broken hidden machine. He then tells Red, reckless as usual, I see. Going after an item in a place like this. Who knows what would have happened if Gyarados hadn't come along? If you wanted to cross the sea, you should have just come to Misty, the water Pokemon expert. Red gives a wink, a smile, and a thumbs up, and Misty does the same in kind. Heck yeah, a friend in need is a friend indeed. I mean, it's nice to have Misty back. I just wish she wasn't just kind of being used as a taxi service, so we'll see if she actually matters to the plot. Alright, next is chapter 25. You know Articuno, and speaking of which, we see Articuno flying above the, I ain't gonna sugarcoat it, the Titty Island, the big Twin Peaks. As we see it fly through the through the mounds, we see Team Rocket is on the island, looking up at Articuno. Articuno then lands inside. Meanwhile, Red is on the head of Gyarados as they make their way, as Misty is on Starmie, or Staryu? Is it Starmie or Staryu? I always get it confused. Starmie, saying, that's it, just keep your weight forward. And exhausted Red says, yeah, right, but if I grab this, it's a piece of cake, huh? He then notices that they're nearing land and he says, yeah, Misty, how do I stop? But it's too late. Both Gyarados and Red have found themselves buried hip deep into the sand. Misty says, well, you could try saying stop. Red says, you couldn't tell me this earlier. On the island, Misty says, congratulations, by the way, you reached the island. They say the legendary Pokemon Articuno lives on the Seafoam Islands. Wait, this is the Seafoam Islands? He says, here, take my Gyarados' Pokeball. Red questions, huh? As Misty explains, Red, the HM was destroyed. Now your Pokemon can't learn to surf, right? So I'm letting you borrow my Gyarados. Gyarados has been fully rehabilitated, so you shouldn't have any trouble. And Gyarados gives a, I guess, smile to Red. He then says, well, I'd better be off, as she stretches. Red goes, huh? But aren't you coming? Misty turns to him saying, I'm a gym leader. I have a life, okay? I only followed you because I figured you'd have trouble crossing the sea. And how did you even know he was out at the sea? Jeez, Misty just out here coming in clutch. See, this shows why Ash needed a companion, specifically two gym leaders. Capable, and the only way he probably would have gotten as far as he did, especially in the early days. He then says, in exchange for my Gyarados, I'll borrow your Krabby. As she just takes it off of him. He's a little too comfortable with just grabbing him. He then takes off on Starmie, who's more floating than surfing. And it's cool. And she says, take good care of Gyarados, now bye. And she just takes off. Don't give back that Gyarados. It's stupid strong. She just leaves. Red says, okay, bye. Scratches his head saying, sheesh, alone with this escapee from Team Rocket. He looks over at Gyarados, who's just kind of happy, and says, oh well, at least I have a Pokemon that can surf now, right? But meanwhile, Misty, with a very worried look on her face, says, I wish I could stay. I hope he wins the badges he's after. Kind of figured she knew that maybe Team Rocket was on the island, but I guess not. But why win the badges he's after? He's not really after badges in the long run. Honestly, yeah, he's just trying to catalog Pokemon, really. We then cut back to the Seafoam Islands at the Central Ravine, or the space between the boobies, as he looks as Red wanders the forest saying, brr, getting kind of cold, not noticing a rustling in the branches and Rocket members watching him. Red says to himself, the trees and the grass, they're all weathered. Could that mean there's an Articuno nearby? Why would you immediately say Articuno? Or did he mostly, oh right, no, Misty mentioned that there was an Articuno, right? Yeah, Misty had said it. There we go. That just happened a little while ago, I should remember. Red brings out all of his Pokemon and says, okay guys, this time our opponent is the legendary bird Pokemon Articuno. If you sense anything at all, let me know right away. Got it? And then brings out Gyarados' Pokeball saying, oops, almost forgot the newcomer. And he brings out Gyarados saying, hey everyone, allow me to introduce our newest member. And all of the other Pokemon shirk back from Gyarados. Red says, huh? What's wrong? But Bulbasaur distinctly remembers battling this Gyarados. So Red says, it won't be like before. Gyarados was brainwashed by Team Rocket back then. Now Gyarados is as friendly as any Pokemon. But the others continue to shrink back from the Gyarados who tries to move in. As Red says, oh well, they'll work it out sooner or later. Only for a Muck to lunge at Red. He turns saying, Muck! And Pikachu dives in. But it's Gyarados who manages to get in the way before Pikachu. Red says, come on, help you guys. The other Pokemon all kind of look at each other worried, but Red marches off saying, okay, fine. Only for a Ninja Star to be thrown at his feet as that's not Koga, right? I'm pretty sure that's not Koga. Who the heck is that? Who the heck is Harry? Okay, whatever. Harry says this is our Articuno as he's flanked by several Rocket grunts. Red says, Team Rocket. Hey, the Articuno, it disappeared. What? Hey, what do you mean the Articuno disappeared? You didn't even catch sight of the Articuno. But Harry laughs, saying, ha ha ha. Red questions, hey, don't tell me. Harry says Articuno dislikes confrontation. When it senses the presence of an enemy, it seals itself in ice. As Red spots the sealed-in Articuno, who's still alive as it glances down at the Rocket members, Harry says, go, as he has Muck grab at the frozen Articuno. Red says, the Articuno, Muck's grabbing it. Hold it, you. Gyarados, go. And he sends in Gyarados, but Gyarados starts to kind of freak out a little bit, which takes everyone off guard, both Red's team and the Rocket members as well. Red says, Gyarados, what's wrong? And as he looks into Gyarados' eyes, he thinks those eyes, like before, remembering when Gyarados was crazed and lashing about. Red says, what if there's still some side effect of the brain of being experimented on by Team Rocket? I think it's just PTSD, honestly. Seeing them must be triggering terrible memories. Yeah, exactly. Harry says if Articuno breaks out of the ice, we're through. Muck, destroy that Gyarados. And Muck attacks Gyarados, slamming it into something? I can't really tell what's going on there. Oh, into the ice. This causes Articuno to break free. Harry says, Articuno, no. Articuno spots them, and the Rocket Grunt members say, don't let it escape. Get it. They go chasing after Articuno, and Red's team go chasing after them. But Red says, no, everybody stop. Forget the Articuno. We gotta help Gyarados. Now we see Gyarados still tussling with Muck. Red says, Gyarados is hurting. If you'd been captured by them, you'd be going through the same thing. Eevee moves in up to Red as he says, you understand, don't you, Eevee? Team Rocket did it to you too. And I guess Red's team, understanding what's going on, they steel themselves. Poliwrath and Pikachu move in. Pikachu shocks Muck. Well, I guess Snorlax punches Muck? Red says yes. Unfortunately, Articuno is flanked by the Team Rocket grunt. As Harry says, that's it, hold it down. Articuno turns to the grunt and he flips up one of his wings. Oh, and then uses, I don't know, something to launch several ice shards at the Rocket grunt. Meanwhile, as Red Team's battles against the Muck, Red says, good job. That is until Pikachu and Eevee are flung away. As Muck moves in to go at Gyarados and Red, Articuno notices this and moves in on Muck. Just as Red says, we're dead. He then looks up, noticing that Muck is frozen solid. He says, it ignored my Pokemon and froze Muck. Gyarados then moves over to Red, and Red says, Gyarados, you snapped out of it. Articuno then flies up and takes off with the grunts and Harry chasing behind, Harry saying, after that thing, leaving Red and Gyarados a bit bewildered. Later, on the side near the ocean, Red looks off into the distance of the waves. It says to his Pokemon, I guess Articuno got away. He looks back to his Pokemon saying, well, that's okay. Everybody came together to help our new team member. Red and his Pokemon cheers as he says, come on guys, the journey's just getting started. It's gonna suck if he gives that Gyarados back. You know, we had such a nice little bonding moment here. We then pick up at the Pokemon house on, well, I assume Cinnabar Island, as we see Rocket grunts shuffling through various papers and documents. Harry crumples up a book saying, wherever you've gone, traitor, we'll find you. We'll find you, Blaine. Okay, so Blaine already betrayed them. I guess after what happened with Mewtwo, or did he grow conscious or something? I know something happens between Blaine and Mewtwo. Meanwhile, we then cut to Red making his way to Cinnabar Island on Gyarados, saying there it is, that must be Cinnabar Island in chapter 26. Holy Moltres. He then notices something saying, huh? What's that? Some kind of fire. He notices on the edge of the island. He says, we better take a look, Gyarados, and they head over that way. Red then makes his way to the edge of the island, climbing up the cliffside, which, dang, the finger strength thing right around here. Okay. He peeks over the cliff, and then, ooh, one of my other favorite Pokemon are here. None other than Gengar. As Red spots Team Rocket with a Gengar and a Magnemite out, surrounding someone or something, Red thinks, yeesh, Team Rocket. Suddenly, an Arcanine and a Rapidash come running out of the forest. The grunts say, there, Blaine's Arcanine and Rapidash. Harry says, attack. I'm not really sure what's happening here. I can't tell, but Arcanine and Rapidash are battling against Gengar and whatever else is in that scene. Red thinks, so that's what the flame was. But where's their trainer? Unfortunately, the flames move towards him, and he cries out, alerting the Rocket grunt, who say, someone's there. It's Blaine, drag him out. Red panics, saying, uh-oh. But as the grunts look over the side, they spot Red, and they question, who's this? It sure isn't Blaine. Harry says, he's seen us, though. He's seen us, that's enough. Eliminate him. And as Gengar moves into attack, a voice calls out, wait, and Blaine comes out of the forest, saying, leave the boy alone. I'm the one you want, right? Harry says, so, traitor, you've decided to show yourself. Maybe it's a good thing this kid showed up after all. One wrong move, Blaine, and he drops. As Harry steps on Red's fingers, Blaine pauses as Harry says, no more tough talk now, eh? Then let's put an end to this. Gengar, Nightshade. Gengar uses Nightshade on Blaine, which causes him to double over in pain. Harry says, it's curtains for you. Wahaha. Red then brandishes a Pokeball saying, think again. Think again. Red shouts, hey. The grunt turns, questioning, huh? As Red's Gyarados comes bursting out of the waves. Red says, Gyarados attack, and Gyarados uses, I guess, Hydro Pump. As Red makes his way over the cliff, he shouts to Blaine, come on. And Blaine jumps onto his Rapidash. He then scoops up Red, and they just make their way down the cliffside as Harry and the grunt shout, no, get him! They make their way down. Well, Blaine makes his way down with Red as he says, you risk your life for me? Red says, I guess so. Blaine says, my name is Blaine, and you are? Red says, Red. How come those guys are after you? And why did they call you a traitor? Blaine says, well, I was once a scientist for Team Rocket. Red shouts, what? For Team Rocket? Blaine says, shh. It seems our pursuers haven't given up quite yet. As Blaine spots something in the distance behind them, Red turns, questioning, huh? That there's some kind of weird ball of fire for chasing them. Red freaks out saying, is that a ball of fire? Blaine shouts, faster Rapidash. And Rapidash does just that. Red says, we can't just run, mister. We gotta fight back. Blaine ponders this for a bit, but Red brings out Poliwrath and tells him to use Water Gun. But nothing really happens to the flame. As Red says, it isn't working. The flame then moves around Rapidash, cutting it off, and Blaine and Red exclaim in a panic, what? That shape is, as the fireball takes form into Moltres. As Red says, the legendary bird Pokemon Moltres? Man, already getting another legendary so soon. Meanwhile, back at the cliffside, Harry laughs. I'll make you regret turning against us, Blaine. You remember the Moltres we captured on the Indigo Plateau. Its attack is relentless. Nothing can stop it until its prey is burnt to a cinder. Oh, they already captured Moltres. Jeez, oh, that's not good. As Moltres moves in, Blaine says, Rapidash, fire spin now, which it's a fire Pokemon, dude. What? You're a fire trim leader. Come on, man. Oh, as the fire spin moves in on Moltres, Moltres just gotta brush it to the side like it was nothing, like, bitch, please. Red says, let me try. Gyarados, Hydro Pump. Because Red remembers typing. Oh, never mind. Man, this Moltres is haughty, as it just kind of dismissively dives around Gyarados' hydro pump. Evasion. Red says it's too fast. That Moltres readies itself and sends out several fireballs towards Blaine and Red, which they just barely manage to avoid, though they hit the ground hard. And the forest catches on fire something fierce. As Moltres moves in, Red looks up saying, It's incredible. Blaine tries to get up saying, Red, do you have any flying Pokemon? Red says, no, I don't. Blaine says it's hard to fight a flying opponent without a way to get up in the air with it. What can we... Blaine is picturing an Aerodactyl, it seems. Moltres fires on them again, but Red ducks out of the way, and he ends up dropping the amberized bug sample. Blaine sees this, saying, what's this? Red tries to pull him away, saying, there's a time and place for scientific curiosity. But Red says, it's a Pokemon fossil. A Pokemon paleontologist gave it to me. Oh, Blaine says ancient amber. That's right. I forgot about that. But Moltres unleashes a fire blast at them. Red looks up gasping and braces himself for the attack, screaming in terror. But when he's not struck, he notices that Blaine shielded him from the attack. He then says, what do we do now? Blaine says, Red, listen to me. This Moltres is too powerful. If this goes on much longer, we're finished. So, and he tosses Red on top of Rapidash's back. He explains, up ahead is my research laboratory. This Rapidash will take you there. I know we just met, Red, but please, trust me. Red questions, what? As Blaine withstands yet another attack from Moltres, he jumps onto Gyarados saying, I gotta borrow your Gyarados for a bit. Red says, hey, wait just a doggone. But Blaine gives him a thumbs up saying, Red, if you can just trust me, we'll win. I know it. I'm counting on you. I feel like you didn't explain enough for this situation. As Rapidash takes off, Red says, but I don't get it. What are you talking about? What do you want me to do? Hey! As Blaine moves into the flames with Gyarados, which, that kind of sucks. I like that Gyarados. Red is silent as Rapidash gallops away. Rapidash then enters a cave, comes up to a door, and knows to press a button. Entering into Blaine's lab, Rapidash just chucks Red onto the floor. As Red says, hey, what's going on? Where am I? What does your trainer want me to do? He then says, wait a sec. Of course, this bad guy used to be in Team Rocket. He's trying to trap me. And Rapidash gets hissed and kicks Red into a bookshelf. Red, holds his head, saying, no, that can't be it. But I still don't know what he wants from me. Rapidash then grabs a little booklet and brings it over to Red. Red says, huh? This book? You're telling me to read this? The book reads Pokemon Fossil Revivification. My God. Red looks at it saying, whoa. And as he flips through, he peeks at the ancient amber he has. He reads, upon reconstruction of the Pokemon fossil, restoration of the original to life may... No way. Red looks over at the machine saying, you mean this machine? Well, if you nay so. Oh God, these puns. He puts the ancient amber in the machine, clicking it into place. He then gulps, pulls the lever with a hiya, and the ancient amber begins to shine. Meanwhile, back with Blaine on top of Gyarados, they continue to try to withstand Moltres' flames. I mean, it makes sense. Gyarados strong against a fire Pokemon, it'll resist the attacks, but I mean, Blaine, you can't resist it. Then again, just have Gyarados continue to hydro pump you, keep you damp so you don't catch fire. Blaine says, Red, that fossilized amber contains a prehistoric life form. Hurry up and restore. I feel like you probably should have said this to him before he left. Meanwhile, back at the lab, the ancient amber cracks. The small insect starts to mutate and the DNA takes shape into an Aerodactyl. As the pod opens up, Aerodactyl stands revealed. Red says, a dinosaur? Cheer saying, alright, nothing can beat us now. But Aerodactyl looks out the window, noticing something. Okay. It grabs on the Red, growls at the ceiling, uses, I guess, Hyper Beam to blast a hole through the roof, and just takes off with Red going, what? Mama? As he's now in the air with Aerodactyl, keeping true to his name. Meanwhile, Blaine says to himself, he's not going to make it in time. It's over. As he and Gyarados continue to try to withstand Moltres' flames, Blaine laments to himself, this can't be the end. I've got to capture that one that got away or we're all doomed. That's the Pokemon I created. Mewtwo. Blaine slumps over onto Gyarados because of the heat. And oddly enough, Moltres, even with that beak, gives a bit of a shit-eating grin. But as Moltres gets ready to attack, there's a gleam in the sky as Aerodactyl, somehow just full of purpose, moves in, much to the surprise of Moltres as well as Blaine. Cutting in between Moltres and Blaine, Aerodactyl flies in with Red, who says, sorry I'm late. Although Blaine, tired, falls off of the back of Gyarados and almost onto some rocks, but Aerodactyl manages to catch him. I love Red just with his hands in the air doing the Superman pose. As Blaine is kept aloft by Aerodactyl, he says, you did it. You restored Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl then lands with Red and Blaine. As Red says, so, that's his name, huh? Nice to meet you. As he greets Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl's so friendly. It's a lot better than the Aerodactyl that came out in with Ash and all that. That thing was aggro as heck. Then again, we did get that awesome sky battle between Aerodactyl and Charizard. Red then says, okay then, let's get him, Aerodactyl. And Aerodactyl and Red fly up. Aerodactyl uses, I don't know, Screech to block against Moltres' Fire Breath, which I don't think that's how that works, but whatever. Oh, what the heck? And as the clash, causes a massive explosion, Moltres notices one of its wings have gone out. I didn't think that's how that works, but whatever. Moltres struggles to keep aloft, as Harry, I guess watching from the cliffside, says, what? Moltres, retreat. Moltres, return. And he recalls Moltres. As Red watches them flee, Red says, cowards. But Blaine says, Red, don't pursue them any further. They then make their way through the burnt-up forest. And Red goes over to Blaine saying, Blaine, are you all right? Blaine says, I'll be okay thanks to you, but I must go now. I have a mission to fulfill. I must see to it that the terrible bioweapon is no longer a threat to anyone. If that makes me a traitor, so be it. Beyond the sea route is Pallet Town. Farewell, Red. And Blaine just walks off in the distance, and Red just watches. Meanwhile, in Saffron City, at Silphco main office, Sabrina looks out from the top floor. Suddenly, Harry pops in with Moltres, bowing before her, saying, I've just returned. Koga appears behind Sabrina, saying, couldn't capture Blaine even with Moltres. Suddenly, Lieutenant Surge chimes in from the control panel saying, this is a message from the abandoned power plant. We have captured a Zapdos. Giovanni, listening in, says, well, now that the Mewtwo project is ruined, these will be our aces in the hole. So, whereas in the plot of the first movie, the movie 2000, you had the one collector guy getting all three of the legendary birds. Here you have Team Rocket, which honestly makes a lot more sense, let's be honest. We then cut to Route 8 in Saffron City's west entrance, which is weird that we're only just now going to Saffron City, because should Red have been meeting up with Blaine? I feel like the way that Red has been going is a little screwed up. Regardless, we see Green trying to get into Saffron City. Oh, it's that one guard. I hate that guy. Don't you gotta get him like a drink or a soda or something? But at the entrance, the guard is telling Green, no unauthorized personnel, step away. Green tries to cozy up to him saying, aw, come on, please, let me through. She winks at him saying, pretty please. And thankfully this guard, not being enticed by I'm assuming 10-year-old child, says, no, and just shoves her out. Green says, owie, that hurt. She gets up in a huff saying, you meanie. Yeah, it's the same thing everywhere. What do I do now? In chapter 27, Cowling Cadabra? Cowling? The hell does that mean? Cut to Route 6, Saffron City South entrance. So Green was at the west, and Blue was at the south. Interesting. As the guard says, no unauthorized personnel, and he's turned away. Blue, a walls away from the checkpoint, says, I can't believe this. 4 roads go into Saffron City, and I can't get through any of them. I love that he pulls up a map of Kanto, and you see where he's at Saffron City, but the little person indicator is the version of Red you play as in the game. That's so cute. Blue closes his Pokedex saying, "This city is my last chance, so?" And he pulls out another one of my favorites. So many of my favorites in this volume. None other than Charizard. Yes, it's very simple thing to like Charizard. So sue me. Shrink these down a little bit. Starting to get a little crowded. Blue brings out his Charizard and hops on top saying, "Ha, it's taken a lot of training, but it's worth it. Charizard, fly." Which you shouldn't be able to get into Saffron City because you can't just fly to a place you've never been to or gone to the Pokemon Center of, but oh well, what can you do? As he flies overhead, he brings out his camera, taking pictures saying there doesn't seem to be anything going on in the city. He then spots none other than Green on her Jigglypuff, using the Silph Scope, saying, "Bing, cute guy in sight. Hi there, what's your name?" Blue says, "What the? I'll just pretend I didn't see that." What a thing to say. He then has his Charizard dive in. As Green says, "Huh? No, don't, there's a..." Oh, force field, a barrier. Huh. Yeah, Charizard hits the barrier and hard. And Blue flies up to Green saying, "Couldn't you have warned me a little earlier?" It's interesting that this is the way these two meet. Okay, I feel like I definitely didn't get this far in the manga. I think I thought I did. Green takes off her Silph Scope saying, "This barrier, it's being produced by a psychic Pokemon, but to surround the whole city with it, this must be one heck of a powerful Pokemon." Could one Pokemon do all that? If you had several psychic Pokemon, yeah, but Blue thinks for a moment and then orders Charizard to attack. Charizard unleashes a fire blast, but it don't do much. Blue thinks to himself, so fire doesn't work. Green calls out, "Hey you, I don't know why you want to get into Saffron City, but how about teaming up with me?" And Blue promptly ignores her and takes off. He thinks to himself, I bet Grandpa knows something about this. Would he? Or at least maybe he'd know the Pokemon and what to use to counter, and the counter would be Ghost Pokemon. Meanwhile, Green watches him fly away. We then cut back to the Sea Route 21, where Red has gotten back his Gyarados and crosses the water, saying, "I just need to cross the sea to get to Pallet Town. First stop, Professor Oak's place." Then cut back to Pallet Town, where I can only hope that Red stopped in with his mom, just to be like, "Hey mom, what's up?" But Red looks around saying, "Where is everybody?" And at noon, weird, he rings the doorbell at Professor Oak's lab, and he peeks in saying, the professor's gone too? But he spots the professor inside, and he walks up to him saying, Prof, all right." I was starting to get creeped out by how quiet this place is. Anyway, the Pokedex is coming along great. The only problem is I can't get into Saffron City. Wait, how do you know you can't get into Saffron City? Oh, because given the route he took, he would have noticed that, hey, for some reason I can't get into Saffron City. So I don't think, you'd have to take the underground tunnel in order to go around, right? I think that was it. Red looks through his Pokédex saying, so what should I... But he doesn't notice the weird look that Oak has to him. Oak then, the hell? Hulks out and moves in on Red, trying to strike at him, managing to damage the ground. Jeez. Red dodges and he questions, Professor? As Oak tries to strike at him again, Red moves out of the way again. He says, sorry, Prof. Ivysaur. He brings out Ivysaur and has him bind Oak, who still has this mad look in his eyes. Red questions, what's going on? As Oak grabs a pipe. What the hell? And the pipe immediately bends as Oak then snaps free of Ivysaur's binding. Red questions, psychic power? As Oak just uses Psybeam against Ivysaur, much to Red's shock. He says, a Psybeam? That means it's a psychic Pokemon? So is a psychic Pokemon disguised as Oak? Suddenly, there's a psychic blast that causes Red to double over, holding his head in pain. He says, Professor, that's not really you, is it? But as the professor moves in, Red says, show yourself, Ivysaur, Leech Seed. And as the Leech Seed binds onto Professor Oak, Red says, we gotta stop it. suck out its energy. And, Oak turns into Kadabra, much to Red's shock. The voice then calls out, "Ha ha ha ha, how do you like Kadabra's hypnosis power, Red looks around saying, "Who's there?" And Sabrina pops in saying, "It works just as well on humans as it does on Pokemon. You've been quite the nuisance for some time now. Consider this a courtesy call. If you want to save Professor Oak and the citizens of Pallet Town, come to Saffron City." Red says, "You mean but..." Sabrina gives him a glare, and Red suddenly finds himself hitting the ground hard. Says, "Crushing me." He tells Ivysaur, "Razor Leaf," but the leaf passes right through Sabrina, much to Red's shock as he says, "What?" Sabrina gives him a devilish smile saying, "Ha ha, au revoir, Red of Pallet Town." Red gets up saying, "Oh, what? Hold it." But as he tries to move in on Sabrina, she disappears with teleport, knocking Red back and apparently destroying most of the lab. Jeez. Red looks around saying, "That was just an illusion?" He ponders to himself, who was that? And why does she want me to go to Saffron City? He then notices Charizard up in the sky above, and as Charizard lands and Blue gets off, he says, "I had a bad premonition," and sure enough, Red comes marching over saying, "Blue, something terrible has happened to Pallet Town." Blue says, "I bet. Take a look at this." And he brings out the photo he took earlier with rocket grunts filling the streets of Saffron City. Blue explains it's an aerial photo of Saffron City. Red says, "What's Team Rocket doing there?" Blue explains, "The entire city is surrounded by a barrier. We can't even get in there from above, from the air. Team Rocket must be using it for their headquarters." Red says, "So, they told us to go to Saffron City because..." Blue says, "That's right. The final battle between our two forces is about to begin," which, what do you mean your two forces? Blue, buddy, you say this like you've been fighting Team Rocket for a dog's age. Or, then again, when he was hunting down Mew, was that just at the behest of his grandfather in order to keep it out of the hands of Team Rocket? Interesting. Man, things are really starting to ramp up though. We went from Team Rocket being about as, let's face it, about as competent as Jesse and James in most situations, to getting into the real stuff. But then again, you take into account the events in the Pokemon anime too, and by this point Giovanni had Mewtwo under his control, and I guess they decided to go in a bit of a different direction because, well, the movie's already doing the Mewtwo thing. Let's go with the legendary bird Pokemon. And having them capture all three, geez, that's some power. And that chance encounter between Red and Giovanni, dang, man, that's actually kind of nice though. Though it does leave me questioning, why the heck was Giovanni just piddling around? Did he mean to encounter Red? Or was he just trying to get his own kind of reading on Red? And does Red still have that Aerodactyl? I don't see why not. I wouldn't get rid of the Aerodactyl. If I remember correctly, I had the Aerodactyl still going into the Pokemon League, facing off against the Elite Four, I think. I think? Yeah. I don't know. I'm can't be real certain about that. Alright, I didn't notice this at the end of the last volume, but currently Red's team consists of Pikachu, level 21. Wait, it's only 21? Ivysaur, 38, Poliwrath, 40. Oh, strongest one is Poliwrath. That makes sense. He's had Poliwrath the longest. And then Ivysaur, but man, it's weird that Pikachu is so underleveled behind everything. I feel that it's probably something everyone does or did back in the day, but I always put my weakest Pokemon at the forefront. That way they'll be the quickest to level up. And if they fall under a certain amount of health, I'll switch them out for the next one and then the next one and the next one in order to kind of make sure all my Pokemon are around the same level. And if I find one that I like more, I'll maybe switch them out. It kind of depends on which is the most powerful. I always go with which one is the most appealing to me and then to level behind that. Because look, if I'm not playing with the Pokemon I enjoy the most, then what's the point? Snorlax is 31, Gyarados is 29, okay, and Aerodactyl is 25. Interesting. Good stuff. Yeah, Red's got a pretty nice team, all things considered. Though 2 water Pokemon, I mean, It's good to have at least one flying, an electric, a normal, grass. Now, the one thing I wouldn't do would be have 2 water Pokemon. It's not bad, and unless Poliwrath is Poliwrath also a fighting Pokemon? I honestly cannot remember. Hold on. It shouldn't have plenty of fighting attack. Yeah, water fighting. So, yeah, that's not bad, you know, especially against psychic Pokemon. Or, wait, no, its weakness is psychic Pokemon, right? But I can never remember this stuff right off the bat. Yeah, weak to psychic, never mind. That's my bad. Yeah. Okay. And man, Red has found 104 Pokemon and he's only caught 46. That's about right. That's about right. That's my stats in the game. It's like, look, I've never gone for the gotta catch 'em all mentality because I'm like, look, man, I'm not going out of my way for some of this. I'll catch what I can catch in game, what I come across, but I'm not going out of my way for anything. If I don't have it, I'll catch it. But I'm not doing all that other extra crap. I'm sorry. I know that's the spirit of game, but you can go on and get bent. But I'm really looking forward to the next volume because we'll have the showdown with Giovanni and just Team Rocket in general, as well as the gym leaders underneath Giovanni and Team Rocket and all that. It feels like a lot has been happening in the background that Red just hasn't really been privy to, because I feel like this whole time Blue has been on this mission, and that's why he's been kind of haughty, because he has kind of a greater purpose, but Red has helped make it a little bit more interesting. And the fact that Erica had talked and conversed with Misty as well as Brock, it makes me think, okay, was Brock, you know, doing that challenger thing in order to strengthen himself to be able to take on Team Rocket? Misty was actively training to get better, and Erica has been undermining Team Rocket. Like, the battle lines have been drawn here. That's actually kind of interesting. There's a war about to go down in no, not Pallet Town. I mean, it looks like a war went down in Pallet Town, but there's a war happening in Kanto, and everyone's invited, whether you want to be or not. But I do wonder how Green's gonna end up factoring into this, because she's nosy and she's interested, but what's in it for her ultimately? The fact that she already stole the Silk Scope is also very interesting, because didn't you need that in order to, wasn't that the whole reason why you went into Saffron City, or am I misremembering that? I might be misremembering that. Regardless, good stuff. I'm looking forward to what's up next, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and hope to see you later. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.